Right, now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Welcome back to another edition of the Pick and Go podcast, your last one for this year. And we've made it through once again. Unfortunately, I haven't made it through with my good friend, Pretty Weepu. Once again, he must be the busiest man in New Zealand at the moment. Have not seen him in over a month. So I hope he's doing well. I think he's got a wee bit of a hooey going on at Wellington College this morning. So unfortunately, he couldn't be here for the final edition. But I do have two of my good pick and go friends here. We'll head up north first. Why don't we go to our good friend Jeff Wilson, who's back for the final pick and go of the season. Jeff, welcome back in, mate.
Mate, it's great to be with you for the last time in 2025. I think we all need a break. Clearly, Perry needs a break. Clearly, he's decided he needed a break a month ago. That's what he needs. Obviously, clearly a lot to talk about, team. I don't know if we're going to. Is an hour going to be long enough? I doubt it.
I don't think so. We're going to cram in as much as we can, and to help us cram in a whole lot of rugby union stuff is our good friend Ben Searle of Surly Talk Sports. Surly, welcome back in, mate.
Yeah, good to be here. I was going to say, I don't know if Pitty's the busiest man on earth. I think it's more the work ethic and the questionable amount of it rather than the busyness. But good on him. He can find a day off. I rate it.
Well, soz about that, Pitty. Unfortunately, you're not here to be able to defend yourself. So hopefully we'll see you back again next season sometime. As we usually do on the Pick and Go, we're going to have a look at the punting from last week. And it was just me and Steve Devine. And I'll start with me. I had two bets. First bet was the All Blacks minus 28.5 against Wales into South Africa to win. That was no good. And then my other bet was the All Blacks minus 39.5 at the alternate line. And that was no good as well. Down 100 for the week, up $948.58 for the season. That is the best that we will see. However, Steve Devine had one bet last week. It was a multi. He took the All Blacks head-to-head at $1.
Smart.
Yeah, I can't laugh because he was right. South Africa to win. Yeah, okay. France to win. And Argentina to win. So he didn't do too badly to finish the year. But yeah, I think overall our punting really, I mean, we need to go away and just have a good think about our tactics over the off season and come back with some sort of system where we do better than we did this year. I'm looking at a few of you guys at the moment. In fact, I should bring up your overall stats for the year. If we look at Goldie, what was he? He was up $65 for the season, of course.
So you're not pointing the finger at me then?
No.
So you and I are good. You and I, we're tight. Hey.
Yeah, we're shining light.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Pity, he was down $2,015 for the season. So there's certainly room for improvement there.
Well, just be thankful he wasn't here the last month.
Yeah, he didn't win a bet, did he? He didn't win one single bet, I don't think.
And Surly was down $538.27 for the season. So there's a bit to work on there.
That's just one good bet, though, Surly, isn't it? That's just getting one right. That's just getting one right. I mean,
yeah, I think backing North Harbour every week on reflection wasn't a great choice from me, but I won't learn from that. I'll 100% do it again next year.
So where do we go from there? I think I've got a question for everyone, first of all. And with the international season all but over, it's over for the All Blacks. The South Africans still play the Welsh this weekend. But in terms of the All Blacks, what mark would you give them overall for their season? And why? So we'll start with you first, Jeff, because I'm sure that you'll have an opinion on this. Out of 10, what mark would you give the All Blacks for the season and why?
It's probably a 6 in regards to the fact that they still won 10 Test matches, and they protected the Bledisloe Cup and protected the record at Eden Park. And what you could say is there are signs that there's no doubt they can play well and they can create point-scoring opportunities against anybody. They've shown that across the course of the year. But it's the three losses and the nature of the three losses, history being created in Argentina, losing to them, the capitulation in Wellington, and then I think the disappointment of England at Twickenham was probably the biggest disappointment for me, because Wellington I can look at when you're chasing a game, you start making errors and a good team gets on top of you and got a roll, and it sort of blew that scoreline out. But the inconsistencies were certainly still there from last year, and I think I pretty much gave them a similar grade then as well. The fact they haven't really improved is probably the most concerning part. They've certainly got a lot of, in their own minds, a lot of reasons why things have happened. They felt they had a number of injuries. They blooded a lot of young players. Yeah, I get that. But it's the sense of every time we took one step forward, we took a step backwards pretty quickly, and our inconsistency, not just the course of the season, but through games, was a sense of frustration, I think, for everybody. So, look, I still believe we've got the players. I still think that this coaching staff can learn enough along the way, but I think they need some help, and they need to answer some questions around how things are going to be different into next year, because if they thought this year was tough, next year's nasty. Like, it's really hard. So 6 out of 10 next year, I don't think is probably going to cut it, in terms of winning more Test matches. So for me, it was sort of pretty similar to last year. The fact that just another season where I didn't feel as though we found our identity as an All Black team again.
Shirley, your mark out of 10 for the All Blacks for the season?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar, to be fair. I had 6.5, and the biggest thing I wrote down in capitals was inconsistency. I felt like every time we put out a good performance and you started to trust this team and really back them in, the week after, we kind of left feeling a little bit uncertain. So, yeah, some good wins in there. Defending Eden Park, great. Loved going to Scotland and beating them. Loved getting the win against Ireland as well. But, yeah, if it was World Cup year next year, I would be pretty worried still. There's a long way for this team to go, but there's glimpses in there that I've really liked as well. But like Jeff said, that next year's calendar is brutal, and I can't wait to see how we navigate that. And this name, Richie Mo'unga, keeps popping up, and everyone's expecting him to be the saviour, but I'm keen to see what impact he has when he returns to the black jersey at the end of the year, I'm guessing as well, because, yeah, he could easily push us up. But, yeah, plenty of positives, plenty of things I'm still not 100% sold on. Inconsistency, I think, the main word to sum it up.
Yeah, I'm also a 6 out of 10, and I agree. The inconsistency was the problem, but do you give them I guess the All Blacks a bit of a pass mark because they're still working on combinate? What are we? We 2 years into Razor's tenure, so do we give them a wee bit of sort of wiggle room there, Jeff?
I think I said this a couple of weeks ago on television that my patience is starting to wear, because as much as it's easy to say, we've had some injuries and we've blooded some new players, there's still a huge amount of experience in this group. And a lot of that experience, to me, doesn't appear to be, I suppose, performing at a high enough level to elevate the other players around them to get that sort of consistency. What you would expect from guys who have played over, for me now, 50 or 60 Test matches is that they can play well at the highest level week in, week out. A lot of cliches there, I get that, but that's what your expectations are as an All Black. And if you're continually getting the opportunity and you know what's expected of yourself, and I think we've had guys who have played better in the All Black jersey, who have played a lot of Test matches, and they weren't at their best this year. And so if they're not at their best, I think it's really hard to get consistency in your performance. And so there's no doubt there's been a heavy workload on some, but on others there hasn't, And so I don't know if we're really 100% any closer to knowing what our best team might actually be. Because what quite often happened, for example, Quinn Tupaia ended up really elevating his reputation as a player at the international level at the expense of a Geordie Barrett who wasn't playing. And so we're actually no better off in a certain position because they play the same position and whether or not he can play at centre. And then Lester Whanganuku has come in and he's in the same scenario where he looks as though he's going to be a really impactful player at centre. So it's almost like we're doubling up in some positions and in others we're a little bit thin. And I just look at, I started comparing ourselves this last weekend to the top sides. And clearly France, England, Ireland and South Africa are the other 4 teams around the world. And I think we got Ireland at a good time outside of the window. They weren't really ready for that game in Chicago. I look at where those other teams have got to last weekend, and they all looked, particularly those 3, England as well, even though it was a bit scratchy. Argentina, we know, are a good side. They just look a little bit clearer on who they are and how they want to play. And that's probably the concerning part, is I just don't see a game plan for me against those 4 teams, those ones I've just named, which is really going to test them. And if we had to play 3 of them in a row at a Rugby World Cup, I'm not sure we're going to get through that.
Surly, Jeff mentioned that we've built a wee bit of depth in some positions and we're a wee bit thin in others. Do you see this team being able to make another step up next season with you mentioned Richie Mo'unga coming back and a lot of people sort of hoping that he'll be the saviour. I'm not so sure myself. But in terms of the team, and in particular the forward pack, we do seem to have built quite a bit of depth in a number of positions there, the loose forwards and the locks in particular.
Yeah, we have, but that brings up that point, like those 3 or 4 teams that Jeff just mentioned there, I feel like all of us could go through and give you a starting 15 and a 23 that they will roll out each week. I don't think we could do that with the All Blacks at the moment, and I think that game against Wales perhaps threw a few more spanners in the works too. There were guys that have had very limited opportunities in the black jersey this year that looked very good there and perhaps stepped up as well. So I guess, we've always got these, say, 10 guys that we can guarantee are going to be starting, but it's the makeup of the rest of the team now. There's still some uncertainty for me around what's our best back line, loose forwards-wise as well. What's the dynamic they go with there? So, yeah, it's an interesting time. I feel like we do have the depth and we've got some amazing players. It's just how we fit them all in and who's your preferred starter, who's your impact off the bench, and just those roles within the team because, yeah, the quality is certainly there. It's almost like we've got too much, but we keep chopping and changing. We use 45 players this year, and a lot of that is through injury too. You've got to give the coaches some slack there, but at the same time, it seems like they're a little bit uncertain of certain people as well. So, yeah, it's an interesting topic for me because I feel like we would probably, all 3 of us, just on the show, come up with a different starting 15 to each other. And that's not exactly what you want heading into a big 2 years.
Righty, let's move on to their performance against the Welsh on the weekend. And Jeff, when you put 50 plus points on the board, surely you've got to be happy with some aspects of the game.
Yeah, look, I think they actually kept it really simple. The fact they were really direct. We got some great ball carrying out of some players who were clearly stronger and better than the opposition. Samisoni Taukei'aho was great. Wallace Atiti was great. In the midfield, there was plenty of impact through that in terms of ball carrying. Anton Leonard-Brown had a really strong game. I think you look at it and go, once we were able to get on top of them, we were able to create try-scoring opportunities. And we actually were pretty clinical. Thought we did it quite nicely. The issue I tend to have from this game is the fact that they scored 4 tries and they did it pretty easily as well when we gave them territory. And that's the interesting part for me is that we had great discipline in this game, but gave up territory and gave up go forward. And really, we actually lacked on the defensive side of the ball some real impact. And I think that's one of our biggest concerns right now is that you defensively need to be able to put the opposition under pressure when they're carrying. And we had some statistics come through to us at Sky that only 5% of the tackles the All Blacks put in were dominant. 5%, 1 out of every 20 tackles. Now, if you're allowing teams that sort of go forward against you, you're in trouble. If you watch Ireland, I'll keep going back to the top teams, Ireland, South Africa, that was brutal. Even down to 13 men, Ireland were able to repel South Africa time and time again, just through sheer will and force. And, I think that's an element of our game is that the balance of you've got to be able to put on shots to be able to force the opposition to make mistakes. And we're not putting on shots. So in terms of this game, I thought on attack, great. We constructed 7 really good tries. Probably got a couple more, but it was really clinical. And 50 points was always going to be enough, clearly, to beat Wales. But it's on the other side of it. When they're running in tries untouched, players not having a hand on them, you've got to start asking some questions about, one, where's our impact defensively, and where's our system to make sure that we're at least covering spaces. So I think there's some players who did well. I was disappointed Ruben Love wasn't on the field for 80 minutes. Can't really understand that. I was disappointed we didn't go 6-2 split, because if you've had a chance to do that in a test match, this was it. I didn't need to carry Lester Fainga'anuku and Sevu Reece on the bench. We just didn't try. To me, we didn't really try anything different in a game, which we should have known we were going to win comfortably. And the one thing you love about someone like a Ruben Love, as we saw, he put in one sidestep, showed an acceleration, he scores a try. How do we not get the ball in his hands more for him to show his talents? I'm not sure how that played out. He showed did a nice try assist early on in the game. So yeah, I just thought it was a really clinical attacking performance, but still a passive performance defensively.
Certainly, if we're talking about sidesteps and elusive moves, and the move that Sevu Reece put on when he scored his try was superb. So are there positives that you can take out of that match against the Welsh?
Yeah, that one had my ankles hurting from the couch. That's why I retired this year. That certainly didn't make me miss that. I've had a few moments like that myself, unfortunately, where you think you're safe chilling out there on the wing on defence and you get absolutely exposed. Yeah, I enjoyed watching this game purely from an attacking point of view. I like the tries we put together. The Ruben Love thing really frustrated me too. I assumed that he was going to move into 10 to finish the game, and I was really excited to see that. I think the speed in which he attacks the line, his ball playing ability, it's just really exciting. And he's a player that's had not a lot of minutes for a guy who's been in the squad now for a couple of years. And I think he's ready to take that step up. He shows it every time he plays. So I wonder, was that a premeditated substitution? And are we in danger of doing that a lot now? Was that a 50-minute mark, let's take him off, and instead of seeing how well he was playing and the impact he was having, we just pulled the strings anyway? But yeah, that was my one eyebrow raise, that and the defense, because I feel like Ruben should have played 80 minutes. I want to see more of him, and he could be that X factor for us.
I think the scoreline determined that. I think because we weren't comfortable at 50 minutes, it was, we're going to make a change. And that's the other part. I'm not sure why we needed to make a change. Why did we need to get someone out there? Or to the fact that to me was a sign of, I'm not sure we're in complete control of this game when we should have been. And that's the fact Wales scored just after half-time, and they closed the gap up. And then all of a sudden, it was like, well, and this is this whole, he may have trained at 10, and he may have trained at 10. I'm sure he did some point during the week. And then all of a sudden, he's expected to think, I'll probably go to 10. And then he gets dragged. And what does that do for the young fella? And the other side of it is, and we keep mentioning his name, Richie Mo'unga, but what does that do for Ruben Love now? Because how the pecking order in regards to what's going to happen next year, Beauden Barrett's going to be around, Damien McKenzie's going to be around, and Will Jordan's clearly their preferred fullback. So if you're going to start looking at when Ruben Love's next opportunity to play is going to be, it could be a long time away. He might hardly play next year in the black jersey, and that's unless there's an injury. So that was probably one of the disappointing parts for me, is that if you wanted to find out about trusting a guy, that would have been the chance to go, you know what, we should still go on and win this game. We're playing well, but I think the circumstances meant that, you know what, we can't risk this at all. We don't want to take zero risk here. Let's go with the status quo and let's just bring Sevu on and move Wilder back to fullback and we'll be fine.
Surly, Jeff mentioned a number of players there who sort of put their hand up. Can you sort of pinpoint maybe one or two in that All Black squad that over this season have said, I deserve to be here next season?
Well, the established guys are always producing every week, aren't they? Guys like your Roy Guard, your Artie Savea, players like that. I'm still not 100% sold on which is our best loose forward trio, the dynamic around that, because I still feel like every time Wallace gets his opportunity, I love watching him play. And obviously through injury at the start of this international window, he wasn't playing a lot. Simon Parker got a chance, but yeah, there's just something about Wallace, and I get that he's not the biggest human being in the world, same as Artie and things like that when you look at loose forwards around the international calendar. But I think pound for pound, they've got to be right up there with the strongest. So yeah, it's that loose forward trio dynamic for me. That is the interesting one. I think Leicester's had a big impact coming back in. He always looks dangerous in terms of tackle breaking every time he gets the ball. And I do wonder if Rieko Ioane perhaps posed a few questions towards the end there in that last game, because he's been almost the forgotten man throughout this campaign. 88th test for him on the weekend. I thought him and Anton Leonard-Brown performed pretty well too. A couple guys that have been in the All Black system for a very long time now, and that was their first run on the tour, basically, first proper run, and I thought they certainly didn't let themselves down. So perhaps they threw a few questions out there as well.
Jeff, if you look at that loose forward combination, if you have someone like an Ardie Savea, who's not the biggest guy on the field, but is huge in heart, huge in workload, huge in skills, does that mean you have to have a big body in one of the other loose forward positions to counterbalance that?
Look, it's a great question, because, you know, as much as there's Ardie Savea has clearly been an impactful player, seven at the international level is a relentless position. And in terms of the physicality, and this is where I think they went back to Sam Cane last year. Like this All Black coaching group went back to Sam Cane at 7. That was their preferred option at 7 in the big games, because straight physicality, and Sam is a big man. Like, and that's to me is the terms of you talk about defence, right? Somewhere in your loose forward trio, not just one, but 2, 3, they all need to be able to hit, and hit hard. And the fact that I really like where Peter Lakai got to. I thought he had a really strong campaign once he got his All Black opportunity. Clearly that's what they were sort of looking from Simon Parker. But for me, Parker just probably doesn't impose himself in other parts of the game enough. But it's certainly, when was the last time you saw an All Black loose forward annihilate someone? Like literally annihilate someone. And that's what Sammy Penny Finau, sometimes when the ball's nowhere near someone, is annihilating someone. But you can see his mindset. At the moment, I'm not sure, does the opposition fear any of our loose forward trio in terms of the contact area? And I can promise you, loose forwards determine your defence, because they often are ending up in that zone that's just outside the edge of the ruck, where they're having to make shots and to force errors. And you need to be constant on the ball at the international game, because if you can't slow the opposition's ball down by being a threat at the breakdown, look, Malcolm Marx does it. Look, the whole Springbok forward pack does it. But Peter Steff, Marx, Khaleesi, Visa, they're relentless in their physicality. And so for me, we've got to work out, I'm not convinced that, at that level, at the highest level, Ardie Savea was very good at 8 for the All Blacks. He was very, very good. And this is the issue for us. I just don't know, Duplessis Karifi is one of the guys just slightly undersized, but got limited opportunities. I mean, it's a hard one for the All Blacks, because we're wanting to see this creativity out of our loose forwards, but what we can't do is we can't compromise the physicality they need against the big teams.
That's a good question, Jeff. If I think back, the one loose forward who was devastating on defence consistently, I go back to Jerome Kaino, who was just an immense force on that blindside flank.
Well, can I say this though? But all three of them were. Yeah. Reid, McCaw, and Kaino were physical. Like when Kieran hit people, they stayed hit. Like he was a big body. I mean, these guys are big, big men. We're talking. I reckon they'd be carrying, compared to what our 3 loose forwards, I'd be probably 6, 7, 8 kgs each more than what our guys. Maybe not so much Parker. In regards, he's probably similar to Jerome in terms of in size, but as we know how hard Jerome hit. So I just think I look at that. You see how direct teams get. You see how they carry in those inside channels. You need to be able to stop momentum. And I think at the moment, if you think about our size comparatively to other forward packs and the physicality, I think we're just slightly behind them in terms of size, not in terms of willingness. I have no doubt about the willing side of it, but there are some big bodies out there.
Right, we've dragged on a wee bit. We said this was going to be a short, sharp show. It's not turning out to be that way. So let's move on to a couple of the other internationals that were played over the weekend. And Ireland up against South Africa. Look, South Africa came out on top and played some very, very good rugby. But Ireland, if we put the discipline to the side and the pressure that the Springboks created through their forwards, that then meant the referee was almost putting his hand in his pocket and pulling out a card every 5 or 6 minutes, it seemed at times. So, sure, South Africa, once again, impressive, but you've got to give that Irish team huge ticks, Surly, for the tenacity that they showed on defence to hold the Springboks to only 24 points when they were down a couple of players for a good portion of that game.
Yeah, they're a proud team, right? And you can see wearing that jersey means a lot to them. And they were up for the task. The Sinbins were pretty out the gate, right? Like 5 people should never be binned in an international quality game like that. But yeah, well done to Ireland. I think the improvements they've made since they played us was massive, but obviously that comes with time in the saddle and playing a couple games together. I love watching the Irish play. They're a great footy side. They have been for a long time now, and I think they loved the opportunity to take on a team that to me is clearly the number one side in the world, and they certainly didn't back down. They scrambled. They worked hard defensively. They've got some nice attacking talent there, some good combinations. And I like the way they play the game. They move it, but they're controlled as well. And they're very sure in the way that they want to play themselves. And I think the Springboks are very similar in that regard too. So I thought it was just 2 quality teams going at it. And the Boks got the win, but I certainly don't think it was a disappointing loss for Ireland at all. There's so many positives for them in that.
Jeff, were you more impressed with how the Irish played defensively or how the South Africans just went about their business again?
No, not impressed at all. In fact, they should have had more in the bin. Ultimately, just concede your try and go back to halfway. Matthew Carley, the referee, handled this perfectly. He should have kept going to his pocket for the infringements. They were getting absolutely dominated up front. Oh. And South Africa butchered this. They should have won by 30 points. A number of times they had opportunities and they made fundamental errors. They had overlaps galore, but they decided they were going to go through the front door 5 metres from the line. And even some of the after the cards, there were some infringements I think Matthew Carley actually decided to ignore. There was some stuff around the side. I mean, they could have had more guys in the bin. They got completely dominated at scrum time, and this was what, South Africa, when they desperately wanted this game, this win. They really, you could tell. Like this had a lot of meaning to it. They'd lost to Ireland a few times recently. They wanted to make a statement, and this was them at their damaging best. And they just made hard work of it. They could have had this game comfortably in the bag in the first half, and that's where you give credit to Ireland, is the fact that they did steal up, and then at the back end of the game they looked dangerous. Now I didn't think they were ever going to win this contest, but South Africa will be going, we made hard work of something when we'd done all the work to get the advantage. We didn't come away with enough points. But in terms of a standard, in terms of intensity, I thought this was I think it was great for everyone to see and watch and go, you know what, that was, in regards to an intensity this year, I think that was the best test match I'd seen all year, because they went to another level in regards to, there was some real niggle and feeling. I thought it was actually an important performance for Ireland, in regards to, there's a lot of doubt whether they can get back to where they were a couple of years ago. I think this was a pretty good statement around they're not as far away, I think, as some people think.
Shirley, one other international we'll touch on, the French up against the Wallabies, and it was another high-scoring affair, but the Wallabies, have you seen improvement there from them? Is Joe Schmidt, is he under any pressure at the moment?
Well, he's calling it a day at the end of this year, isn't he?
No, apparently he's hanging in there.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's probably not ideal. The fact it keeps changing as well, but
No, I think because Les Kiss is involved with Super Rugby again,
right.
I think that Joe's going to go and help in the first series or prepare for the first series for the Nations Cup there, those 3 test matches. So I think he's just hanging around for that a little bit longer just to help that transition once again. But I'm wondering whether or not Les has asked him to stay on. Maybe you hear all the talk, Surly, that they love what he's doing. Australian Rugby loves what he's doing. Mike Cron's going to be doing some more work behind the scenes for Super Rugby, so they hope for that steals up their front row stuff again because they've gone backwards since he left for this last end of year tour. But I think that's the reason he's hanging in there. Just a bit of an update on that.
No, that's good to know for sure. 67 years last time they went without a win in a Northern Tour, and I guess like quality opposition apart from the Italy game. I feel like the Italy game will be the one that has them feeling really bad about this tour because the French are great, obviously, and that first 40 minutes was pretty brutal. It was a bit of a slugfest, and that Max Jorgensen try was one of the better tries we'll see this year as well. So there were some moments there for a Wallabies team that showed that they are no joke, but I think it's the no wins across the tour and that loss to Italy in particular that will hurt them, and the Aussie players that scored against them throughout this tour that perhaps could have been wearing the green and gold at times that came back to hurt them, right? Matt Hansen and then the Italian duo as well of Australians that scored against them. Yeah.
So, your take on the Wallabies in particular, Jeff, are they improving? Are they in dire straits? Can you see them stepping up another sort of rung or two next year?
Well, I think the question you have to ask is, were the Lions any good? Because, I mean, at that point, you're talking about the best of the best, and Australia, were very close to beating them in a series. And I think, that's where I found it very interesting as the season's gone on that they've declined in terms of performance. And now, whether that's fatigue for a lot of players, there's some guys there who have played a huge number of minutes through Super Rugby and then pulling on the jersey for Australia, and they've had to go to that well a lot in regards to the same guys, and then they've had a revolving door at 10. Now, it's very hard to play well consistently if you don't have someone in the first 5 jersey who every single week is driving your team around, or at least 2 guys. They've got a handful of guys that have gone, we'll give him a crack. We're waiting for a breakout performance to win a big test match. And the trouble is it's hard to do that, and get experience and confidence, and the fact, and I think James O'Connor had he had a dream little run, and then the reality hit home when he started, the couple of games he started for the Wallabies, he wasn't great. He didn't perform particularly well. I think that's indicative of sort of where they are. So the one thing that astounded me, the defence was woeful against France. Like it was, there was a point they had Shirley, you remember this, that France had a static ruck on one side of the field and they literally did hands, passing the ball sideways and scored in the other corner. Like they did hands. I mean, I was astounded. I was watching this going, hold on, they're going to score by doing hands here and like 6 passes along the line and then the winger just dropped it in. It's like, what are we watching here? Like this shouldn't happen in international rugby. And I do wonder, as talented as Joseph Swaliti is, centre is a hard position to play in international rugby. And you saw what he does defensively when he gets under pressure. He doesn't know exactly what his role is. Always felt to me that the best place for him would have been to learn this game as at fullback, and have I think he would have a bigger impact for this team rather than at centre because he gets lost in the game. It's a little bit like what we did with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, is the fact that all of a sudden he's in amongst all the bodies and no space, very little space, very little opportunity. Teams closing down. I feel as though he was his biggest impact for them could have been at the back, and they've got a lot of good midfielders. So, I thought they were disappointing, and particularly defensively. Particularly in their back line, they started to fall off and just give up too much ground.
Hands hands.
Well,
I haven't
honestly, I was
I
astounded.
haven't heard that term in 30 years. I haven't. Did they
That's
stop
high
playing
school
it?
footy.
It was crazy as I watched it. Going, is anyone going to come up and tackle anybody? Well, they just watched it, and it was like they were picking it off on a practice drill, and then there you go, you just run it in, and I was like, what just happened there? What just happened? You know, anyone could have shot out of the line and stopped it, or made them do. No. We'll just let them just pass it along the chain and give it to the 2 or 3 of the fastest people in international rugby. Yeah, smart. Go.
Surely, where would you play Joseph Swaliti? Would you put him at fullback? Would you put him on the wing?
Yeah, on paper, that midfield combo they have looks outstanding. I thought Leonard Kittel was great this year. He's an unreal player, and he brings that physicality, that punch, that aggression. So you'd think those two could really complement each other. But yeah, Joe's still learning the game, isn't he? So wing fullback, similar to how in Israel Folau kind of transitioned across to, and just let him use his size, his attributes one-on-one, rather than chucking him in one of the hardest positions defensively to defend. There's just too much going on around him at the moment, and you can see glimpses of the superstar potential. Like, he is a talented athlete, but yeah, I don't think they're helping him out. No.
Okay, we've had a look at a few of the internationals from last weekend. It's now time to put your thinking cap on and tell me who's played the best international footy overall this season. We'll stick with you, Shirley. Is there? Are you going to put the All Blacks at the top of that pile, or are you thinking of someone else?
Well, considering I gave them a 6.5 out of 10, that would mean the international game is in very dire straits at the moment. I will go with South Africa, followed closely by England. I think winning is the main thing. Those two teams have done a lot of that this year. I think South Africa have shown their depth, and just they have every key position locked down at the moment. And I think the fact 3 out of the 4 nominated for World Rugby Player of the Year were South Africans just shows their dominance. They can play in multiple different ways and still get the result. So I think they're number one. And then I think England, for me, as much as it hurts to say, 11 straight wins, and they're a team that knows the brand of footy they want to play. It's pretty basic. It's very English footy, but it gets results. And yeah, they're forming a team that I didn't expect them to be this good, but they are pretty good. So you have to tip your hat to them.
Jeff, have you got South Africa on top as well?
Absolutely, have got South Africa on top, and clearly on top. And the fact that what they can do from week to week is change their selection, change their team, move 10, 11 guys in and out. I think they've got a couple of real options. They've got more than a couple at 10 and at fullback that can really change the way that they play. And then they've got they've had locks suspended, they've had locks injured, and they just keep producing. So, I think they're clearly the number one team in the world. I think everyone accepts that. You're right about England. I think England, they lost one game in the Six Nations, I think. And then basically they've beaten France, they've beaten Scotland. Yes, they were tight contests. They thrashed Italy. They then thrashed Wales. They then, without their Lions players, they go and beat Argentina. They beat them twice in Argentina. And then at the end of the year tour, at this end of the year season, they've beaten Fiji, beaten the All Blacks, and then beaten Argentina again. So, I think I would love to have seen them play South Africa. I mean, that would just have been awesome, because I think, everyone big would have played everyone big then, pretty much. The only disappointment for us is the French series. We never really got, 3 test matches against their top side at all. So that's the only disappointment for me. But I think you would have to say the teams who know who they are. We got a glimpse of England last year here in New Zealand for a couple of weeks, and they are close. And they're a really, really good side. So I think they're probably in world rugby. The South Africans have been on top for a while. I think England are the big mover. Absolutely.
We are all in agreement here. South Africa on top for mine as well. It's very easy to build a game plan around a dominant pack. And if there's one thing that the South Africans have got, it's a dominant pack. And they've got the bomb squad to come on. Which brings me to another question as well. South Africa got the bomb squad. England have got the POM squad. Is it time the All Blacks looked at something? And you did mention that earlier, Jeff. You were surprised that the All Blacks didn't go with a 6-2 split against the Welsh. Is it something that maybe the All Blacks need to have a bit, I guess, more of a look at?
Oh, we're stubborn sometimes. I don't understand why we're not prepared, because clearly it's working for teams. So to not have gone down that path at some point during this season, I think is disappointing, particularly when the versatility you have in Rico Ioane, Alesta Fainga'anuku, the fact you've got guys who can play 15 and 10. It doesn't make sense to me that we haven't explored this and gone, you know what, let's try having a little bit more in terms of depth on the bench. But I think one of the challenges we have with that is we're reluctant to take off some pivotal players. So we just don't, I never want to take him off, or I never want to take him off. So why do I need that guy? Rather than trusting that guy is going to have an impact on the game, And so I think for me, that's where I get a little bit frustrated, is that we haven't explored this because it has worked for other teams. And even the fact that Russie's exploring his use of the front row. I mean, he'll take a couple of guys off after 30 minutes, knowing that there's an injury or someone gets banged up, that he can roll them back out there. And is it testing the boundaries of the way the substitutions are supposed to be used in the game? Absolutely, but it's a boundary that they've used and used well. It's like the line out that they've done in play, the line out drive they've done in play, which when they're throwing the guy up, they used it a couple of times and that's it. Now they've looked at it and said it could be a weapon. Yes, we'll try it, and then we'll park it again. So they're exploring different things in the way they're playing the game. So for us, I can't understand why we wouldn't have looked at the Welsh game and gone, could we try this? The third test against France, could we try this? The second test against Australia in Perth, could we have tried it then? Because there was nothing riding on that. We'd won the Bledisloe Cup. Yes, there's a chance we were going to win the rugby championship, but we're relying heavily on it. For me, that's the frustration, is the fact that we're not prepared to try something that's clearly worked for other teams.
Certainly, Jeff brings up a good point. If Rassie Erasmus sees a boundary, he goes, no, that's not the boundary, and he pushes it out a wee bit further and changes things too. Are the All Blacks not adventurous enough when it comes to trying new things?
Perhaps so, yes. I think one of the most frustrating things for me this year was in our losses, we didn't adapt and try change the way we were playing. We just stuck to plan A the whole time. And even when that wasn't working, we didn't change in game. And I think a lot of that can come down to injecting different personnel off the bench, giving them a run earlier, allowing them to play their natural game, which is a different way to the way that the starters like to play. Like if something's not working, we need to be able to roll out that bench unit, that bomb squad like it's been dubbed, and change the way we're playing and go from there and roll out that plan B or plan C. So I think that's probably the most frustrating thing for me this year, is at times we're getting dominated in games and we just stuck to that same game plan. I'd love to see us, and All Black teams in the past have been able to do it, right? Adapt in game, change the way we play. And I do wonder if a bit of that is personnel and guys having really specific roles when they come on, of just play your way, mix things up, change the way we're playing, because what we're doing at the moment isn't working. So go have a crack and try this. We have the talent and the players to be able to do that. We're just not doing it at the moment.
Oh, I can't remember the first time we went to the bench early. Okay, it was almost like we were always just after the opposition when they would get a lift out of their bench, and so then we'd try and counter that rather than actually getting ahead of them and going, well, actually, let's go a little bit early here and see if we can't change the game. You're 100% right. I would have liked to have thought there are times where it's like we're not quite trusting, the wider squad. It's all good and well saying we've tried all these players, but it doesn't look as though we trust them to be good enough to finish and win games.
Okay. We've got a huge international season next year. And of course, it's the beginning of the Nations Championship, which is supposed to give more credence to every test match that's played. Jeff, are you for this concept?
I'll be fascinated to see how it plays out. I really will, because we've asked France to come back to New Zealand next year. And we'll find out very quickly if they're taking it seriously or not. Because whatever team they throw down and come down to the Southern Hemisphere, that'll show you whether or not World Rugby has convinced all of its participants that this is a concept that is going to be around for a long period of time. I'm not convinced. I'm not sure that this is the right way to go. You're basically adding another test match to the schedule at the end of the year. What's that going to look like? And at the end of it, will you get the two best teams? That'll be the big question mark when you're doing a round robin scenario like they're doing, and what will it end up looking like? But this is one of those ones. This is an ultimate time will tell whether or not this is, in the best interest of the game and what it does for the game globally. But sometimes you have to roll the dice, and it's not often the World Rugby roll the dice. Let's be honest. So let's just see how it plays out, for me anyway.
Yeah, Surly, the Nations Championship, but Jess, probably correct. We'll find out very, very early. In fact, the first test match, when the French come down to our part of the world to take on the All Blacks, whether everyone's going to be taking this serious. If the French send down their top team, then I think we'll know, bang, yes, this is something that could grow and be very, very good in the coming years. But if the French stay as the way they are, the French are the French, and they send down an under-strength team, then maybe it hasn't quite hit the right note with international teams. But the concept as a whole, are you okay with it?
Yeah, I am. I guess it's new, so that part excites me. The only thing I am worried about is it's a pretty brutal calendar already. Adding this on top and the level of competition it brings and the high-quality contests makes it another step up. Like what the rugby season in New Zealand started 285 days ago, and we're now adding another test against high-quality opposition into the mix. It's pretty brutal stuff, man. And I do wonder the year out from a World Cup, bringing this competition in, how much player fatigue there is going to be. Like, obviously, everyone's going to get up for the World Cup, 100%. But it'll be interesting to see the buy-in from all of the nations, because everyone talks about World Cup cycles. This is the year before the big tournament. So at the same time, if the French do what the French do and don't send their top players down, can you be that mad at them if they are prioritizing not having to make a massive trip like that early in the season? So, well, at the end of their season, to be fair. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But the concept around it does excite me. It's just whether everyone buys in.
Simply put £2 million on the line for the winners and see what happens.
Yeah, there you go.
Just like literally, just okay. Motivate the unions themselves and go. What is winning the Nations Championship actually achieve? What is it? Is it just another trophy? Or you go, you know what? Here's the financial. If you make the final, you get X number of dollars, and if you win the whole thing, there you go. And that, I tell you what, they love that. Every union loves playing for something, and now, and cash right now is king.
Now we've also got a proper tour of South Africa. Are you excited about this, Jeff? And does it give the All Blacks the opportunity to maybe experiment a wee bit more, to be a wee bit more adventurous, to try maybe a 6-2 split against either the Stormers or the Bulls or the Sharks?
Yeah, I mean, the great part of this is that it exposes a whole lot of players to an environment that will be foreign to them. And that's what those games will do, like on a tour where there's a constant pressure every 3 or 4 days. There's a big game. Every game will be a big game. You don't want to be the All Black side that loses to a provincial team that's not an international side. And then you've got, and now this is, now I'm very passionate about this. If this is a 4-test series, it's a joke. If the 4th test, which is not going to be in South Africa, this shouldn't be the best of 4. It's 3 test matches. It's a 3-test tour. The first 3, we have a winner. We have a winner of the series in South Africa, and then the other one is a money grab. Wherever that is, don't say it's anything else. But the last thing we want to do is the concept of it being 2-2, because no one wants a draw. No one's ever wanted a draw. It's just absurd. And so stop selling us the 4 tests. For me, it's 3 tests, the 3 in South Africa, game on, and we'll see if you can recreate what happened in 1996. Are you good enough as an All Black team to go to South Africa, have midweek games, go on tour, deal with the pressure? This is perfect for an All Black team to find out if they're any good. And I was lucky enough to do it in 96, and that to me was one of the best All Black teams ever. And it was hard work. And we lost the third test. We did play 4. The first one didn't count. It was this Tri-Nations game. Then we played 3 more. And the 3 after that were the series. And that was a really, really good South African team. We're going over there to play the number 1 team in the world. And they're awesome. You think this is going to be tough? You think the Grand Slam was going to be hard? Seriously. This is like nothing else that these guys will have ever faced in their rugby career, other than, for some of these guys, a Rugby World Cup, this last Rugby World Cup where we've had to go through Ireland, Argentina, and then South Africa. This is something that we'll have to be on top of our game to have any chance.
Oh, this is something to look forward to. Right, I've got some quick questions for you. This is way too early predictions for next year.
Highlanders?
North Harbour.
What are we talking here?
Hold on, guys. Let me ask the question first. Jeff was on the money. Who will win Super Rugby next year? Jeff?
Highlanders. This is from last to first. There you go. From last this year to first next year. Look, I really do actually like where the Highlanders are going to. I think they're going to be in the conversation next year. I'm actually serious in regards to this. I think they're going to build on what was a great season for Otago. Cam Miller's going to be a big part of that. Pledge is going to make a huge difference to them. They've had some guys that have stood up. They've developed some talent. Their back 3 is going to be lethal. Timothy Tavatavanawa is almost like the forgotten man of New Zealand rugby since he picked up that shoulder injury. So I think they're going to make some big waves. I'm not sure Australia will be quite as competitive, and then it'll be what do the Blues look like in 2026 in regards to Rico Ioane, how much rugby will Patrick Tuipulotu be there for? Will Ofa Tuangafasi be around? So I think there's opportunities, but look, way too early. Look, I get it. I'm tugging on the heartstrings in some ways, but I genuinely think they're going to be a contender. But you can't discount those guys who are in Christchurch, and they're going to have a new stadium. They're going to be, about a month and a bit in, they're going to be as dangerous as ever.
Stop. You're okay when you're talking about the Highlanders. Didn't like the last part there, Jeff. We'll go to...
I'm hearing you.
We'll go to Surly now. You sticking with your boys, Surly, the Blues?
I think the Chiefs win it, and I think 2027, here's a way too early. That is the Highlanders year, when Josh Jacob is there as well, and they would have had a year after winning next year's NPC as Otago that they can really build off the back of. So there's a double or triple prediction. Chiefs win this year coming, 26. Highlanders win 27. Otago win the 26 NPC.
Way too. Chiefs joint favourites, 350 with the Crusaders to win Super Rugby Pacific next year. Highlanders, $15 to win next year.
I've already backed that.
Already had
they were 40, but Jeff chucked the house
can
on.
I put my
They've
first,
come into 15.
Can I put my first 100 from the podcast next year on them?
Oh, maybe find out who Pity's betting on first and wait, because he might jump on the Landers too. We don't want that.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the Hurricanes at $5 to win Super Rugby next year. The next question, how many tests will the All Blacks lose next season? And I've set the line at over under 2.5.
Over.
They will lose more than 2.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a tough season. It's a tough season.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
I've set mine too low then. Yeah, I have set it too low. I also agree over 2.5 losses for the All Blacks next season. And we've already got Surly's answer for this one, and I agree with him. Who will win the NPC next year? I'm going with Otago. I was super impressed with how they performed this season, and I think they can build on that, and there'll be, for a good part of that, a whole lot of All Blacks away, and I think they'll be one of the teams that are least affected by that. So I'm going with Otago.
Richie Mo'unga back, though, isn't he, for the defending champs? So
he won't be back.
No.
You reckon?
No, he'll be playing for the All Blacks.
Correct. Yeah.
He will be playing for the All Blacks 100%.
Yeah, so
Lucky I picked Otago then.
3 for 3 then,
Jeff?
obviously.
Are we 3 for 3,
as well.
Otago?
Look, there's no doubt that they're losing a couple of guys, which will hurt them a little bit. But the core of that is for a team they're like any side. If they stay healthy with their Super Rugby players, they're going to be very, very good. So I definitely think that they're a contender once again. And from where they got to this year, it was an impressive season, and they'll be right there again.
Okay, that's it. One more thing, your Christmas rugby wish. Surly, what have you got?
I am hoping that the powers that be at the TAB have put tickets to the South Africa tour under my Christmas tree, flights, ACOM included. I'll do whatever it takes. I reckon that tour is a bucket list trip, and the way Jeff just sold it then amps me up even more. But I truly reckon, like, if you're a rugby union fan, a tour across South Africa has to be right up there. The pride, the passion, on-field, exceptional, off-field, even better. I reckon that is a bucket list trip for any footy fan. So thanks, Paulie. Make that happen. Really appreciate it, mate. You can come with me. There you go. You can be my +1. I'll even palm the wife off and you can come there, mate.
Bang,
Separate
I'm in.
rooms,
That's
though.
it.
Separate rooms.
That's
Separate rooms.
Yeah, there's only...
Look,
that went a step too far. Pure and simple, It's a series win. It's a series win against South Africa. That's all I'd love to see. Is if they find a way to improve to that point, then all of a sudden we've got a World Cup contender a year later. And
you're saying it's a 3-test series. It's the first 3 tests.
Yeah, it's out of the first 3, not wherever that 4th test wherever it's going to be played. It's not included. It's a best of 3.
Yep. My Christmas wish is just to see the All Blacks take another step forward, a bit of an improvement. Let's see and a wee bit more sort of certainty around who Razor thinks is his top starting 15 and then his 23. So, and I'm happy to go top and tail with you, Surly. Don't worry about it. If we've got to slum it, then we'll do it. That's it. This is a South African tour, proper tour.
I'll take the couch, mate. Don't worry.
Okay. Thanks to my very good friend Jeff Wilson for being a part of the Pick and Go this season. It was always good to have him on board. He was always insightful, if somewhat one-eyed when it came to the blue and golds. But I'm happy around that. He's an Otago man through and through. Thanks to my very good friend Ben Searle, who once again was a mainstay of the Pick and Go. And I look forward to seeing these two guys back again next season. And I look forward to seeing everyone out there as well tuning in for the Pick and Go when we return in 2026.